Hey folks, it's Wolf over here, host Magi and VR at work. All right, so it is no secret that I've always been a big proponent of the VR workspace. In fact, I myself have spent more than 6 years working in VR and switched my entire company over to a VR workspace environment back in early 2023. But as a proponent of VR workspaces, even I have to admit there have always been some problems, some shortcomings and flaws that needed to be worked with in order to be able to create a virtual workspace environment that increases productivity and makes your workday a lot easier while also being secure and private. Today, I'm going to talk to you about an app that kind of gets rid of a lot of those problems and really makes working in VR a ton easier. Now, no app is perfect. This one does have a couple of flaws that I'm going to talk about. But overall, this new collaboration between Microsoft and Meta is really going to kind of change the game on how we work in virtual reality and things like that. So without further ado, folks, let's get into it. Let's talk about the new remote desktop collaboration between Microsoft and Meta.
Okay, guys, so we are in our virtual workplace environment. Now, I talked a lot about privacy being one of the big issues when it comes to working in virtual workspace. And when you're in a workspace such as vSpatial or Immersed or something like that, one of the biggest issues you have is that your physical screens are still visible in the outside world. So if you are recording in VR, if you're working in VR, even if you're connected to your desktop computer through your virtual headset, anybody who comes into the room can see whatever is on your screen. That is obviously not a good thing from a privacy perspective. You don't want to be able to reveal certain customer information, for example. So having that is a big problem. Now, when you get into this new app, that's a problem that gets solved. So let's go ahead and jump into the app now. So we're going to now. There's a few different ways to get into the app. One way is if you look at your keyboard, most of the time you'll see like a little pop up says connect, and you can connect to your computer. Sometimes that doesn't show up. I think that has a lot to do with the lighting, the background on your keyboard, what keyboard you're using, and few other factors as well. But not to worry, if you can't get that to pop up, not a big deal. You can go into your quick settings menu and click remote desktop, or you can come down to your bar or into your applications library and just click on the remote desktop icon. And if you do not have the your computer connected, then the first thing you'll see is this app right here. It says connect to nearby PC. When you do that, it'll show a QR code which you can then scan to connect to your machine. Now, however, we already have a computer connected, so we're going to go over here and we can click connect. But before we do, I just do want to point out that you can add multiple computers, so you're not stuck to having just one machine. So we're going to go ahead and click on connect, and it's going to open up our screen. The first thing it's going to do as we open up is it's going to shut off our physical monitors. So nobody can see what you're doing. So you have complete privacy, complete security. If you're in a public location on a laptop, for example, you don't have to worry about somebody being able to see you messing with your customer stuff or whatever, whatever it may be that you're needing to do. So you have one screen that pops up by default, and then you can have up to three displays. Now, this is one of the drawbacks to this application that I had talked about previously. Um, in other apps, you can have more than just the two screens. And to me, that is a pretty big deal. I don't like having being limited to just three screens because I often have between five and six screens. And With vSpatial, for example, I could have 7 screens open at any given time and be able to be running on that. But 3 screens is good enough for the vast majority of people, for the vast majority of needs and whatnot. So, not a huge limitation, but a little bit of one. And that limitation itself can be sort of negated when you consider the fact that you can open other apps at the same time. So I can have my Amazon Music open, I can have the default Meta browser open, and be working in multiple things. So it's almost like having more screens than just these three. So in a way, that gets a little bit negated. It also does forward computer audio. So what that basically means is your computer audio will play in your headset. That is huge for me. So I use headphones all the time with my headset, and it's just much better to be able to have that sound coming through my headphones rather than, otherwise. And again, that helps with privacy and security because then other people, if you're using headphones, then other people can't hear, you know, your conversations with customers or whatever. So that's a big deal. All right. And when you're done, you can just click on disconnect computer. And we'll get to that here in a minute. All right. So the next big downside to this that I see, the one thing I do not like about this application at all is that you are tied to your physical device, whether that be a laptop or a desktop computer, you are tied to your physical device. So the reason is because you have to have access to your physical keyboard, physical mouse. With other applications like vSpatial, Immersed, etc., there are virtual keyboards, and you can use your controllers and your hands, or you can even use a pass-through regular keyboard. Um, but with this particular application, you can't do any of that. You cannot control your system at all with your controllers or with your hands, and there is no virtual keyboard. I hope that's something that Microsoft and Meta will have the good sense to add in the future, because here's what kind of sets this apart for me is I love vSpatial because I can take it anywhere with me. I don't have to have my laptop with me. I don't have to have my desktop with me. I can leave my laptop in my backpack or at home or in my hotel room, whatever, wherever I may be, and I can connect to it as long as it's turned on and the vSpatial desktop client is running. I can connect to it and be able to run all my computer stuff and no limits at all. With remote desktop, you can't do that. But again, that's only when I'm traveling, so that's the only time that's a problem. The reality is that this is a great app, and I'm going to definitely be using it a lot more. And I've kind of moved to using this app a lot more than vSpatial, even. Um, I will probably still use vSpatial or Immersed or something like that on occasion, like when I'm traveling and whatnot, or when I'm not right by my desk, but I need to be able to access a keyboard and mouse to be able to control things. Then I may use one of those other apps. But for the most part, this is where I'm going to live. So, real quick, real simple video, folks. It's not a really complex app. It's super easy to use, super reliable. I've never had a problem so far uh, of getting it to work. Now, I know the public release was just a couple days ago, but I have been part of the early access testing for quite some time, and I can tell you that in all of that time, except for in the very, very beginning, I've never had problems with connections. I've never had problems getting it to work. I've never had it crash on me, anything like that. This app has always worked perfectly as it's supposed to be. And it has just it has just changed the way I work. And it has really made working in virtual reality a lot easier to do. All right, folks, so I encourage you to check out the remote desktop app in your Quest. If you are using Windows 11, of course, this does not work with Mac or Linux. And also check out our VR at Work and our Host Magi channels. like and subscribe, and you'll get those notifications about new and upcoming videos and things like that. So I'll see you in the next one.